Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Thanksgiving week here on the income stream. This week, we're not going to go super deep into specifically marketing and entrepreneurship. I mean, those topics will come up and stories will be told about them, and tips and tricks and answers to your questions will, I'm sure, arise. But today, I wanted to talk a little bit about just some stories and just tell stories and have some fun and keep this week super casual while we dive into the Thanksgiving week here. And no matter where in the world you're at, whether you celebrate Thanksgiving or not, I just want to say I'm grateful for you, thankful for you being here. We are 251 days into this, which is pretty amazing. And again, every time I just think about when this all started 251 days ago, when the pandemic and all the lockdowns started for the first time. And yes, we're getting back into lockdowns here in the US, at least here in Southern California, and I know in a lot of other places in the US and world. Although there's other parts of the world that are doing really well. No matter where in the world you're at, it can be tough, but we're here together, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to just share with you and to just be here with you and to have you share with each other too. If you are here watching live, say hello to your friends here. Thanks again, Team Flynn, especially the members and the admins in the house. And if you're new here, thanks again. And if you wanted to hit subscribe so that you make sure you don't miss any other videos that are coming your way, not only the daily live streams here, and again, 9 a.m. every day, patflynn.com/the income stream is the link to remember. But moving forward toward day 365, we're going to go for 1 year straight at least. Then we'll see what will happen after that, but that will be crazy because it definitely feels like I just started this yesterday. Honestly, it's crazy how time flies, especially when you're in a situation like this. But time also flies when you're having fun. And I have fun here with you too. So let's tell some stories today. Thanks so much. And if you're watching the replay, hashtag Team Replay in the comment section. Welcome in. Let's enjoy the show. Welcome to the income stream.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Right. Now, I wanted to start with a story that involves the podcast, right? The podcast, the Smart Passive Income podcast, has been amazing. It's been the number one way people have found out about me. 99.998 of the thank you notes and thank you letters that I get are a result of people who have discovered me or who have listened to the podcast. And I'm really, really excited about that. But this story is really interesting. I had a person reach out to me via email. This was, I would say, 2000, and let's get some storytime music, by the way. We haven't done storytime music in a while. We're just going to dive right into it, right? This was, I want to say 2012, 2013. So the podcast has been out for a few years by now. I had switched from bi-weekly to weekly, and it was going very strong. And a fan who was coming to San Diego reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'd love to meet you." And I said, "Okay, that'd be great. I often love to meet with my fans. Would love to meet you one day in person, obviously, when things are safe again. But I usually come to a local Starbucks and meet people and just hang out for a little bit. I love to meet my fans. I love to learn about their stories. I love to understand more about them and see how I've been able to or how I can make an impact on their lives." And so this person reached out to me and said, "Okay, let's meet at this Starbucks at this time. I love your show. Thanks so much for everything you do." And I was like, "Okay, cool, let's meet." So I go to the Starbucks, and I go there. I like to go early, just in case. And I'm there 10 minutes early. And then, of course, the time comes, and I'm looking around, and I don't see anybody. And I had forgotten to ask, what they were going to wear, what they look like, or any of this stuff. I just sort of was going to go there, and I would suspect that a person would just come up to me and know and I'd put myself in a position where I was there and, kind of close to the entrance. Anyway, 10 minutes go by. I don't see anybody, or nobody comes up to me, or I don't, kind of make eye contact with anybody. 20 minutes go by. 30 minutes go by. And then an hour goes by. And I'm like, did I get the time zone wrong? I checked my email. This person hasn't reached back out to me, and, I just don't know what's going on. So you know what? I'm going to just get some work done. I have my laptop with me anyway. So I go order a coffee finally. I was going to offer coffee to the person who was going to meet me. And as I'm ordering, I say, "Hey, thank you. Could I get a hot blonde Americano, extra hot grande?" And I place my order, and then I wait at the counter. And as I'm waiting at the counter, somebody comes up to me who I had noticed that was sitting there the same amount of time that I was from the front entrance. And they said, "Wait, are you Pat Flynn?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "You're Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I recognize your voice now." And I was like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "Oh, my name's Andrew. I'm supposed to meet you here. Hey." And I was like, "How have you been sitting here this whole time for like an hour?" And he's like, "Yeah, I thought you weren't going to show up." And I said, "Well, I thought you weren't going to show up." And apparently when I was making this order, he had heard me and he had recognized my voice. That's what got him to get up and ask me if I was in fact Pat Flynn. Because this person had listened to my podcast, but never had seen me in real life and did not expect somebody to look like this who is named Pat Flynn. He even said, "Hey, no offense, but I thought you were going to be this pasty ginger." And I was like, "Nope, definitely not one of those." And we had a good laugh about it. And we chatted for, about an hour because I told April that I was going to be gone for a couple hours. But it was so fun. It was so funny to be recognized by my voice, right? Versus like how I look. And I know I definitely don't look like literally a Patrick Flynn. That's like the most Irish name you can have. My middle name is not O or doesn't start with an O, because then that would be actually the most Irish thing ever. Patrick O'Flynn, Patrick O'Flynn, or Mick Flynn, McFly. Anyway, hey Archer, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate you. But it's just like, that was the first time I was like, wow, like people can really connect with and recognize a voice. And it wasn't even about like putting myself out there and, having people see me. So maybe this gives you a little bit of encouragement with the power of your voice, right? There's even YouTube channels that I know that never put their face on camera, yet people are still able to make a connection with them. There are animation channels that are all about the animation and the voice. Odd Ones Out, for example, is a very popular YouTube channel here where people can hear that voice and they recognize it right away. There's even a guy named Matt Pat. Do you happen to know who Matt Pat is? No, not me, Pat. Matt Pat, who is a guy who does these really cool theory things about video games. Game theory is one of them. He has another one called food theory and movie theory. And he never puts his face on camera, or he typically doesn't, but he has just like an image of him and then the mouth moves up and down, sort of animated. But, you hear his voice and it's like, you recognize it right away. It's really interesting. Nomadimals, here's to lost connections at Starbucks. Thank you so much for that. Super chat, I appreciate you. Pasty Ginger, another name for redhead Irishman, LOL. Yes, and Matt Pat is indeed great. Thank you for the super chats, by the way. Yeah, if I was a Mick Flynn, that'd be interesting. I am indeed Irish, though. I'm a quarter Irish, 1/8 Polish, 1/8 Russian, and half Filipino. So I often say mutt. This is what I am. I'm a mutt. Anyway, let's tell some more stories. What other topics? This will be very similar to what we do on Fridays, where we spin the wheel and we have like a prediction. Well, we crowdsource what these predictions are going to be about. Today, we're just telling stories, and I'm just going to unlock and unpack some stories. In fact, when I was getting interviewed for my book, Superfans, when I was attempting to outsource the writing of it, I tried that for a while and it didn't work, so I ended up writing it myself. But the interview process from the company that I hired was really special because it unlocked a lot of these stories in my brain that are there. It's like interesting when you consider a lot of the stuff that's in there that you don't really surface every once in a while. And sometimes it's just great to think about these things. We tell stories on Friday, and some of you pulled out some really good stories about the Philippines this past Friday because I'm half Filipino. But yeah, let's talk about some other stuff. Filipino ginger, says Pat Flynn. Right? Oh man, that'd be crazy if I had red hair. That'd be very interesting. No Starbucks here. Must have gotten lost in the post. Cool. So what should we tell stories about? They could be business related. They could be personal. They could be about whatever. I know there's a story I told way back in the day about how I had broken my arm. If you might remember that. And I'll wait for some other topics to come in. But we're just practicing storytelling today. This is a fun thing. Leading into Thanksgiving, you might be around the dinner table with some friends and family. Let's use this opportunity to tell some great stories and to practice our storytelling, right? I think it's one of those things that can make people smile, can make people laugh, can make people get emotional, and it really brings more people together as stories, right? It's much better than just telling a bunch of random facts And when you can put those facts, even if you're teaching things like on a video or on a podcast or at the dinner table, when you can encapsulate them inside of story, it can go a very, very long way. Tell us about a time you were star-struck. Okay. Well, this is going to be a really interesting and weird story. I had been invited. There's two stories within this one story. So thank you. Who is this? Was this Hey Archer? Okay, cool. So tell us about a time when you were starstruck. So it wasn't necessarily starstruck. There have been moments on the podcast where I've been starstruck. I interviewed Tim Ferriss in episode 51, and I had a little 10-minute fanboy moment in the beginning. I got to interview MKBHD a couple years ago and pop him on the podcast. I interviewed Matt Diavella. I don't know if you heard that recent episode on the podcast, but he's a cool guy. I got to meet him in person, so we were friends already, but to have him on the show and with his growth, it's just been amazing. So I've been starstruck in many of those cases. But you might remember that I was once hired as a result of the podcast to be the social media manager for an independent film that was coming out. The person who is producing this independent film, his name was Mitchell. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, Pat, I love your show. We are looking for really innovative, really creative people to help us with the marketing of our independent film. It's called Crooked Arrows. It's Mighty Ducks, but lacrosse. And it involves Native American culture and sports and the ragtag team story, winning the championship, that sort of thing." I hope I didn't spoil it for you, but you kind of always expect that with these kinds of stories. Anyway, I got to become the social media manager for that film. I would normally say no to something like that, but I've always wanted to just like see what it was like to get into Hollywood and like just understand what that world is like. And it's definitely a different world for sure. So I helped grow their Facebook page from what was, I think, 1,000 followers or fans back when pages were a thing to about 150,000. I was helping them with their social media on Twitter and other places, and I helped them just get more fans before the movie came out. So part of the contract was me to not just help them with social media, but to also be in the film. I said, if you can get me in, even as a background, that'd be fine. But I kind of played hardball a little bit, and they were like, "Oh yeah, no problem, we can get you in. We'll fly you out to Boston," which is where, I don't remember what campus we were on, but we were on some beautiful campus. I don't know if it was an Ivy League school or whatnot, but we were using one of their fields to film the championship scene, and I got to go and be a part of it. I got to meet Brandon Routh, who is Superman. I wasn't really starstruck by him. I didn't really watch that particular Superman movie, but Brandon Routh, you might remember that name, played Superman. It wasn't the most popular Superman movie. In fact, were any of them other than the Christopher Reeves ones? I'm not exactly sure. But I got to meet him. He was really nice. And there was a woman there, Chelsea Ricketts was her name. And I recognized her from some episodes of Nickelodeon's, I don't even remember the show, Big Time Rush, I think it was. She was like a guest there, and she was sort of a popular sidekick or side story within that show. Yes, Big Time Rush. I watched a lot of Nickelodeon with my wife, in fact. We watched iCarly, Victorious. They just made us feel like a kid again. Anyway, I'm still going with this story. So I got to meet Brandon Routh, and then Chelsea Ricketts was there, and I just thought she was super cool. Like, she had a cool personality, and I was just a really shy person. I'm still a very shy person. I was more behind the scenes, and I got to meet her in the elevator. She was coming out of the elevator, and I was coming in, and my job when I was there was to get everybody's social media handles and just talk to them a little bit about what I was hoping to do to get the movie going. But she was always so busy. She was in her trailer. She was filming. She was the sort of lead female character in the role of in Crooked Arrows. But I got to meet her, and I was like, "Whoa, Chelsea Ricketts, hey, how are you?" And she's like, "Good. How are you?" And again, we're in the hotel in the elevator, passing by. I'm going in the elevator. She's coming out with a friend. I think they're going out for dinner or something. Anyways, I meet her, and I'm like, "Whoa, Chelsea Ricketts, how are you?" And she's like, "Good. How are you?" And I know to her, I'm just like this random stranger. So I'm like, "Oh, I am the social media guy for Crooked Arrows." And I'm like, very impressed by that, right? And I'm like, can tell that she's like, "Oh, okay, cool, nice to meet you. What's your name?" And I'm like, "Oh, my name's Pat Flynn. I'm just, tell me a little bit more about kind of what you're hoping to do with Crooked Arrows and social media and like how I can help you." And she's like, "Oh, that's really cool. Let's chat for a minute." And she was like, "Oh, well, did you like recognize me because of the movie or something?" And I was like, "No, I actually recognize you because I watched Nickelodeon." And me being like mid-20s and her, also in her 20s, I was just like, I don't know if this is the most impressive thing to say, that I recognize her from Nickelodeon. And I was like, yeah, I just like started a fumble and like I lost it. I was just really embarrassed that I said that. Because then I got in my own head. I was like, is that weird that like, I recognize her, but from a show that was for kids? That was a little strange. But the more strange and more embarrassing thing was when I got to meet Brandon Routh's wife. So Brandon Routh, the lead in Crooked Arrows, Superman, his wife was there at the after party. So there was a party after the film was shot and all those kinds of things. And it was at a bar, and everybody was having fun because we were done filming. And I hadn't met Brandon Routh yet, right? So I got to meet him for the first time, and then his wife was there. And I had recognized his wife. I didn't know that he was married to a woman who was in Dexter. And Dexter is a series about a serial killer who kills serial killers. And I got really involved watching that with my wife for a period of time. And there was a season where there was a woman who was kind of crazy and insane, but she was a really good character, and she was the daughter of one of the main serial killers. And Brandon Routh had to go to the bathroom, so I was just chatting with his wife, and we were just, sipping a cocktail, and I was like, hey, I love your stuff, like, because I've recognized her, right? And she was like, oh, where did you see me from? Like, and I was like, oh, I recognized you from Dexter. Like, I loved every single scene that you did. And then I realized that many of the scenes that she was in were not family or kid appropriate. They were a little bit more on the intimate level, if you want to call it that. And so I just made that connection right when I said that I basically told her that I loved all the scenes that she was in where maybe she wasn't wearing as many clothes as people normally should wear. And I started to get flush. And then as soon as Brandon came, I left. I jetted out of there, and I got super embarrassed. And I was always looking around to see if she was pointing at me saying, hey, this guy creeper social media dude came over and was, I don't know. So that happened. So thank you for the question, Hey Archer. It wasn't really a starstruck moment. It was more my most embarrassing moments with celebrities. Yeah. I think when it comes to actually being starstruck, it was more in the blogosphere, to be honest. In 2010, when I attended Blog World Expo for the first time, I was starstruck by Darren Rouse from ProBlogger, from a lot of other people who were there too. More in the, it's interesting, like how we can become starstruck by just the people we listen to on a podcast, or the people whose blogs we read or videos we watch. It's pretty cool. I think it's pretty awesome. So yeah, that was my stranger danger, says K-Walk. Superman is going to beat up Pat Flynn. Dude, that guy was tall and beefy. I was short and stringy, and it wasn't going to end well. So I just left. The movie, unfortunately, Crooked Arrows, didn't do super well. It was almost too similar to Mighty Ducks, right? It was just so predictable. But I really appreciated the movie because it really involved a lot of Native American culture. I got to even learn more about Native American culture and its influence on that sport, lacrosse. But yeah, that was a very kind of embarrassing moment. And I shared this yesterday. I do have an IMDb page, and we can see that this is true. In fact, I'll share this with you again. IMDb, Pat Flynn. There we go. Crooked Arrows, right there. I'm also the producer for a short film, Miracle Morning, I am in. Generation Freedom, I am in. But I need to put, and what else am I in? No, I think that's it. Okay. So Self. Cool. I don't know. People ask me, Pat, would you ever want to be like an actor in a movie? I think I would be terrible, to be honest. I'd much rather play a background or supporting role, if you will. Yeah. Good times. Little brother to War Pat Flynn. So cool to go, Pat. Tell us about the weirdest experience you've had with a fan or a time a fan was starstruck with you. Okay, I'm going to tell you a creeper moment, if you will. I have a lot of 99.998% of my fans are amazing, right? But there's always going to be, when you grab a large group of people within that sample, there's always going to be a couple cuckoos here and there, right? And I think that this is, and I do in fact talk about this in Superfans. I don't specifically mention this particular situation or this person. I'm not going to even mention their name. But this happened. So Blog World Expo had turned its name to New Media Expo. And this was, I want to say, 2014. I had spoken on stage. This was a very, very important time, actually, in the career that I had on stage, because this was the year that I actually spoke about creating fans, and my presentation, which was how to convert your casual audience into raving fans, that was this year, 2014. And that presentation was my most popular presentation. I've continually been asked to continue to talk about this, even till today. But that was the first time that I presented it, and I created it for specifically this conference. And that eventually turned into the book that many of us know called Superfans, which, again, came from a presentation that did really well. So that's how I sort of validated it and tested it. And big shout out to Jay Baer, who is from convinceandconvert.com, who told me after watching me present that in 2016 at San Diego's Social Media Day, he came up to me later and said, Pat, you should write a book about this because it's so powerful and everybody needs to hear this and it's evergreen information. And I was like, thank you, Jay. So big shout out and thank you to Jay Baer, B-A-E-R. Anyway, 2014, I finished my presentation. It's not the closing keynote or anything like that. It's just a breakout session, but it was super fun. And in fact, this image up here, I don't know if you can see that, if I can turn the camera a little bit. This image is a picture from that particular presentation. And it's me in this packed room, standing room only, offering that presentation, and somebody had gifted me that picture. So that was a very special moment in my career. Anyway, I finished the presentation, and every time I go and speak, I love when I'm done, right? I love speaking early because I can be done and I can enjoy myself. I literally cannot enjoy myself if I haven't spoken yet. I am so worried and so nervous. I get in my own head and I'm practicing and I'm rehearsing, and I just kind of can't think about anything else other than the presentation until I'm done. So I finished the presentation that night with a bunch of friends, Chris Stucker, Greg Hickman, a few others. We're just in Vegas. We're at the Rio Hotel, and this is at the end of the strip down. You can actually see it. It's like this big, beautiful, sort of curved building with some really cool colored rainbow reflections off of the windows, and it's over by where the Palms is on, I think, the north side of the strip. And we're playing craps. It's literally 2 a.m. And again, this is a story about the creepiest moment that has happened in my career from a fan. Speaking of me being a creeper on somebody else, which I talked about earlier. We're playing craps, 2 a.m. We're kind of just betting the minimum so we can have the most fun. We're not in it to make money or anything like that. In most cases, we lose money anyway. So we're just having fun. We're sitting around the table, and this guy comes up to me who's just kind of sipping on his cocktail. He's watching us, and he goes, "Hey, Pat, I need to chat with you." And I was like, "Hey, what's up? I'm just kind of rolling dice here. What's going on?" He's like, "Pat, I really loved your presentation today about fans." And I said, "Wow, thank you. That's awesome to hear." And then he said, "Man, you know what? But it's really sad to hear about Michael Hyatt." And I was like, "What's up with Michael Hyatt? Is he okay?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, he's okay now." And me and my friends are like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, but it's not going to be great from, in this upcoming year." Nothing happened to Michael, by the way. But it was super creepy the way this came up to us and was like talking about the future of one of our friends and things not being okay for them. So we were just like, okay, that's a huge red flag. We kind of turn our shoulder and just keep playing, and it was super weird. One of our friends goes to the bathroom, comes back, but stops halfway to chat with this guy. I don't know if he stopped him or they stopped them or whatever, but every once in a while I look back and that weird dude is chatting with my friend, And then my friend comes back to the craps table and just kind of comes to us and goes, dude, like, avoid that guy. That guy is insane. He was saying some other crazy things that I can't even mention right now. And I'm just like, wow, this is super strange. So we're playing, of course, in Vegas. We lose track of time. And it's like 4 a.m. at this point. So, of course, everybody's tired. I have a flight to catch in the afternoon the next morning, and we have to check out, of course. So I go back up toward the hotel room. And on the way to the elevators, there is a bar. And the bar is sort of like on this raised area. There's like a little guardrail, and there's a bar and some cocktail tables. And there's a bunch of people still there at 4 in the morning. But Vegas, of course, never sleeps. And then I see the same guy. He's sitting there by himself, sipping on another drink. And then as I'm walking by, I just kind of put my head down because I don't want things to happen. And he goes, Pat Flynn, Pat. And I stop and I look, I'm like, yes. And he goes, come here, I want to chat with you. And I said, you know what, I'm so tired. I have a flight to capture next morning. And he's like, no, you got to come here now. And I said, no, I got to go to bed, dude. And he's like, you got to come here now. Because 2 people are going to come by in 5 minutes and tell you something that you don't want to hear. And I was like, what? First of all, marketing 101, don't scare me if you're trying to sell me on something, right? Like, you're not actually doing a good job of convincing me to come over and sit with you by telling me that people are going to tell me something that I don't want to hear. Again, super weird, super random. And he's like yelling, Pat Flynn, Pat Flynn. And my friends and I were going up to the elevator. They're just like, ignore him. He'll be gone in the morning. And I'm just like super weirded out by it. But, you know, I'm okay. This person didn't follow me or nothing, so I'm fine. So I wake up in the morning. It's 9:30 a.m. My alarm is for 10 a.m. because checkout's at 11 a.m. I get woken up by a phone call by my friend Michael O'Neill, who calls and goes, hey, Pat, I hope I didn't wake you up, but there's a guy down here who said he's been waiting for you all night. And I was like, does he look like this? And where is he? He's like, oh, he's at the bar and he's wearing this. And I'm like, yeah, that's the guy. Thank you for becoming a member, Angelina. I appreciate you for being a new member here. So the guy's still waiting for me. So I call Chris Ducker, who's in the hotel with me. I'm like, Chris, I have to leave to go to the airport. So I need you to be my bodyguard. Can you be my bodyguard as I come down the elevator and just shield me and just make sure this guy, this creeper, doesn't kind of do anything? So he's like, yeah, dude, anything. And I'm more than happy to protect you, little man. He always jokes around like that. Anyway, I get my stuff ready. I take a shower. I call Chris. I go to his hotel room. Chris, kind of in Chris fashion, wearing his little suit coat, putting on glasses, like trying to pretend to be like my bodyguard, which he actually is, in fact, at this moment. So I go down the elevator and I look out the side and I see him there. And I go, Chris, that's the guy. And Chris goes, all right, let's go this way. So Chris just guides me out. Like, we're going the opposite direction. Like, if I go this way and go this way, I'm going to pass him. It's the easiest way to the exit so I can catch my Uber. But we go around the outside perimeter to avoid the situation. I get in the car. I go to the airport. I fly home. Everything is safe. Thank you, Chris Ducker, by the way. So, yeah, it was a super weird timing for the yay, but it works out. It's okay. And thank you, Angelina, for being a new member here. 2 days go by. I see in the Facebook group for this event, hey, if anybody has seen this guy's name, let us know. His wife said he didn't get on the airplane and he didn't come home. What? And I hope that this isn't scaring you, because all other interactions with people and fans at these events I go to have been 100% perfect, and I'm so grateful for them. This is just the one outlier that I'm diving into right now. The Facebook group, the founder of this company, this organization, this conference says, hey, missing person alert. This person has not been seen. Their wife said that they didn't come on the plane. They've been missing for 2 days. The conference is over. So I'm like, that's the guy. That's the same dude. So what do you think might have happened to them? Again, this just story gets weirder and weirder, right? Well, anyway, they found him a week later in a hospital. They had found him passed out on the side of the road on the strip. And thankfully, he recovered and was okay. He didn't have any injuries or anything like that. But he had apparently, what I found out years later, because I just didn't want anything to do with this person, apparently he had been drugged when at that bar by who knows who. But they had found something in his system that was a drug that would kind of make people weirded out and kind of, you know, I don't know what the drug was or whatever, but apparently this wasn't the real him. 3 years go by. Yeah, it's not over yet. What's up, Ollie? Good to see you. Dang off his rocket. They're still in Vegas looking for Pat. Bodyguard Chris, funny image in my head. Yes, you can imagine it, right? Especially because he looks like that dude from, gosh, what does he look like? Chris, he's a British guy. The Messenger? No. Chris Tucker looks like one of those action movie stars. Can't remember his name exactly. But anyway, 3 years go by. I see this person at another event. And I'm like, whoop, I want to go this way. But he goes, Pat, you know, I want to apologize. Listen, I want to tell you full straight up what happened. I'm so sorry for creeping you out that night. So I stand 6 feet apart from him. This is even before social distancing was popular. And he tells me the full story. He'd gotten drugged. He wasn't himself. He felt like something was taking control over his body. He ended up at a institution somewhere where they were just kind of helping him recover after getting heavily doses of whatever it was. And he just felt very embarrassed and had forever from that day forward said that he just felt super bad about the situation, didn't want to talk to it about anybody, but he's just been needing to apologize. So he apologized. He said he got off of drinking. He's never drinking again, and he's gotten himself straight. He's perfectly fine. In fact, you know, from what I've heard from others, like, he's a really generous guy. It's just, that was a weird, creepy night. And so that was the weird random fan moment for sure. But yeah, that's that. Thankfully, everybody was ending up safe. I was fine. But yeah, he definitely hit Vegas hard, that's for sure. Hangover 4 plot. You got to make a new Hangover. Yep. I'm sorry I missed a few. Manny, welcome back. Thank you. But yeah, you got to be careful. You know, if you have a drink somewhere in a public place, like, keep your hand over it or always hold on to it. Never put it down and pick it back up. If you put it down, I got to say, it's worth spending extra money on a new drink versus picking up that drink, because you never know, right? But that was a story. I didn't think I'd get into creeper stories here to lead into Thanksgiving week and what was supposed to be happy, but I think that it's interesting to just reflect back, right? So I would love to juxtaposition this crazy, weird story with something happy. So let me think about, yeah, actually, there's so many great stories that have come from events that I've been to, right? I remember going to an event and randomly having a layover at an airport. I think it was Phoenix or something. And I'm just sitting there, literally sitting there in line, and I lock eyes with this dude who's sitting, like, literally right in front of me. And, you know, he, I don't know, I think is on a later boarding group, so he's still sitting. I'm in boarding group A, so I'm standing, and I have, like, my duffel bag with me, and I look and lock eyes with this person, and I go, Joey? Joey Sanez? And he's like, Pat Flynn, right? And I was like, oh my God. So I get out of line because I just have to talk to my best friend from 6th grade to 8th grade. We had lost connection ever since high school. He had moved away. And this random moment at an airport, in line, same time, same plane, going to San Diego. It was coming back to holidays, so he was coming back to see his family. I was coming back home from an event. We just happened to cross paths right there. And we got chatting. We had a blast. Kind of like we were late to board because we were having a good time, and we ended up staying after unboarding. And of course, we both had to go home. He has a family now. I have a family too. But it was just really good to reconnect. And we reconnected on Instagram, and we've stayed in contact ever since. And again, just one of those random fun moments that happens. And Joey and I were best friends. In fact, we were huge baseball fans. We every day after school, he lived pretty close to the middle school that I was at. We would go to his place. My parents would both be working, so I would just stay until dinner time anyway, and I could bike home after. And we played home run derby every single day. So what that meant was we would pitch to each other tennis balls up against his garage, and he had a bat, and we would just like swing for the fences like every time. And we must have lost like at least 100 tennis balls that those couple summers. And the neighbor across the way like hated us because we would always knock balls on their house, and it was just the house on the other side of the street. But man, Joey had a swing, that's for sure. I mean, he would sometimes go 2 houses over, and we never broke any windows or anything, but like we would like weekly go in for our weekly tennis ball delivery from this old lady who lived across the street, who like always seemed angry, but always was like nice enough to put them in a plastic bag for us. Like it was really weird. Like she was very, very kind in doing that, but also like when you look at her face, she was like, I wish you would stop doing this. Here's your nice plastic bag of tennis balls. And so that was a fun couple summers together. We also, this was around the time like South Park started to get popular, and we were both into South Park. We would watch it every Friday or whatever day it came out together. And then we actually got so involved in it. This was my first foray into content creation. I had spent an entire summer cutting out hundreds of different construction paper pieces of all the characters. I created backgrounds. I created all the characters in South Park. I drew them out and cut them in the right colors and shapes. And then I had like different heads depending on moods, and I did stop motion videos using a camera that had a cassette tape. So there was no erasing anything, but I would stop, start, stop, move it, stop, start, move it, start, stop, move it, start, stop. And I would create these like 1 minute long videos using a VHS camcorder as my editing device, essentially. And we had created like movies. And of course, South Park was a little grotesque and whatnot. So there was like, blood splatter or whatever. And we'd have like little pieces drawn out. And it was just like, it's my first time being creative with some of that stuff. So man, I don't know whatever happened to those videos. It'd be really interesting and probably very embarrassing to find them, but they're probably hidden away somewhere in the attic or somewhere in the base. I don't have a basement. Here at my parents' house. Sandlot, yes. Oh man, Sandlot was such a good movie. Phoenix, my birth city. No way, Rob. That's super dope. Speaking of Phoenix, I have a lot of memories of Phoenix, and we're just going story to story here. Are you guys just happy just listening to random stories today? I'm having a lot of fun reliving a lot of these moments and having one story unlock another story, unlock another story. And again, I hope this encourages you to tell more story this week with your family and your kids, your loved ones, your friends when you're around the dinner table this Thanksgiving, or even if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Like, it's always just fun to relive stuff and tell stories and get better at it. I think this is I'm having a great time. This is, I'm grateful for just an audience and to be able to share this stuff. And an audience can be one, it can be many, and it can still be fun. So I hope that you're having a good time. I could see young Pat doing that. So Phoenix was always for whatever reason, it was always like the node for all the, let's go with story time again. I need like I need like a scary story time background. Like if I told that story, if I go to artlist.io, big shout out to artlist.io. Artlist.io is and hashtag not sponsored by the way, but this is the service that I use for finding music for my videos. You can use them as much as you like. You can do whatever you want with them. It's royalty free. It's just a monthly and or annual fee. This is a dope image, by the way, with all the yellow. But what's really cool is you can look up music. Let me accept this and just look up songs really quick. So you can choose between like, different genres of music, right? So if I go to browse, I can go to, mood, and I can go to, let's go to dramatic. So I'm just going to play one of these and we'll see how it might fit into that story with, let's see, let's try maybe this one. Hold on. I need to hear this really quick. No, that's not it. Oh, no, there we go. So I was sitting there, and the guy was at the bar. And he said, Pat, come here. And I said, no. I gotta go to bed. He said, Pat, 2 people are gonna come in and tell you something you don't want to hear. So I run up the stairs, up the elevator. Okay. Dude, music is so dope. I love music, man. I don't know if I was allowed to play that because it's just a preview, but I do have licensing, and I don't know if I can just download this really quick just to have it now. I think it's like, I don't know what the rate is. Let's go to pricing. I do have an account though. $16 a month, $200 a year. I mean, if you're doing this all the time, right? It could make sense. Anyway. Oh, Phoenix, right, Phoenix. So Phoenix just brought back memories of marching band, right? Can you guys hear that now? Okay, yeah. So Phoenix was always the place, because I lived in Berkeley, and I went to the University of California, Berkeley, go Bears, and that's where I went to school for architecture, and where all this crazy stuff happened with my career, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But Epidemic Sound is great too. Yes, that is great. Whenever we flew, because in the marching band there was a thing called pep band, or we called it straw hat band because that's the uniform. White collared shirt, blue vest with flare, like all the pins and whatever spirit that you want to put on there, and a straw hat. And this was a band that was created in the early 1900s, like literally, 1920 or something. And that's the uniform they've always had, traditional. And UC Berkeley is very, very much a traditional school and focuses on tradition. And being in the band, we of course uplift and uphold that tradition. And in the band, the coolest thing to do was to travel with the football team. So a small group of 40 to 50 band members would travel either by plane or by bus to go to the football game and provide some spirit for the team. And so one time we flew to Michigan to play Michigan State. And this was, so we went through Phoenix to reconnect and then go to Michigan State. And it was always Phoenix for some reason. We got to know that airport really well. But we flew to Michigan State, and this was the year after my first year. So I was a second year, so I got to go and travel with the band. And I had heard that it was bad because the team was terrible. The first year that I was at Cal, we were 0-16, I think, or 1-16. I think the last game of the year, which I wasn't able to travel to, which was at Rutgers in New York, we had won. So we were 1-16 or 1-14 or something. I had seen every game and had lost every game, right? So this was a brand new year. We had a new coach. His name was Jeff Tedford. He had come from the offensive line at Oregon, and he was apparently very, very different than the coach that we had. Holmo was his name. Holmoe. Go green, go white. Nice. So what happened was we traveled to Michigan to play Michigan State. And we were in the hotel, and everywhere we went around town to go get food, to just kind of explore a little bit, like, the fans were just so rude. No offense, but I think that because Michigan State was a ranked team at the time, and we were just, like, the bottom of the bottom, it was just, we knew this was going to happen. It was supposed to be an easy win. We were just getting, like, oh, Cal sucks, like, all this, like, hooting and hollering. Even at the game, when we were in the stands, we're a little cluster within the sea of green and white, and we're just this blue band with straw hats, like people throwing stuff at us, making fun of us, like, you guys are terrible, your team sucks, like, go back home, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, this is like crazy, but kind of cool at the same time. It was really fun to be in that kind of environment, but also scary. We ended up winning the game. And I think the probability of winning that game based on numbers and based on a previous year was like 1 out of, 10,000. And we actually had won. So we, at this game, flipped the switch. We started talking mad smack because we had been receiving it for so much. And I got to tell you, it felt so good. I'm not usually one to make others feel bad because of that, but we had been so beaten down by what people were saying. We just had to give it back. And so we were just like wearing our straw hats all over town and just being like, people were nice to us and saying like, hey, good game. Like we would say good game, but we could tell those who were mean to us, especially at the hotel, because we were sharing a hotel with some other people who came and flew into town. Anybody who was wearing a Michigan State hat, we were kind of like letting them hear it a little bit. But some of my favorite moments in school were actually on the road with the band. When you become a junior in the band, you have the option of becoming what's known as a MAC member, MAC, or Musical Activities Committee member. That is the stepping stone to student director, which is what I ultimately wanted to be. So I was a MAC member, and every MAC member, there were 5 of us who sort of worked for or under the student director. It was a very hierarchical sort of organization. It was all student run too, right? So under the drum major, there is the Stunt Committee, and the Stunt Committee is what creates the field shows and gets all the movements ready and does parades and coordinates all that stuff. The MAC Committee was under the student director, and we were in charge of the music. So the stunt and the drum major in charge of the visuals, the formations, the music committee obviously involved with the music, and then we were in charge of the section leaders, right? So it was very hierarchical. It was really cool. And what was really awesome was every single MAC member is responsible for one of those trips that the band takes. And so they're responsible for literally calling the hotels, reserving the rooms, working with the other football team to get tickets to the event, figuring out where to sit, travel. All this stuff is taken care of. This was the first time I was like managing a project for a whole bunch of other people in this way. And it was a really, really fun experience. And so for one trip, we actually were going to, I want to say it was Phoenix, or at least it was, I think, Tucson or something like that. It wasn't a plane ride, but it was a bus ride because it was a lot cheaper. And no, it was a plane ride. And here's how I know. Because the point of this story was our band director, who was there to chaperone us, didn't want to be there. They had just instated this thing where any college group that went out had to have an adult or an older person who worked staff at the school be there with them. And Bob, who was the director of the band, didn't want to go. So this was the first trip that he was on that actually he needed to be on. Typically, he would just stay home and let the band take care of it, but this is the first time he had to come on. So anyway, he didn't want to be there. And so we all flew to Phoenix, and then we were going to drive to, it was either Scottsdale or Tucson, I don't know which one. And the plane lost his baggage. And you'd think that I'd be most stressed about getting the bus to go from the airport to the hotel, to get everybody situated in a hotel, and of course, managing and controlling college students who are on their own in a hotel is a stressful thing enough. You know the thing that stressed me out the most? It was Bob, because he was just a whining baby the whole freaking time. He didn't want to be there. He didn't have his bags. He was saying this is the worst time of his life. And of course, me as somebody trying to manage these kids and bring spirit, I'm just like, Bob, dude, you're the adult here. You're supposed to be the one who's the most responsible of all of us, and you're being the biggest baby here. Anyway, that's where my focus was for that entire trip. And thankfully, I don't even remember if we won or lost. I don't even know, because that was the whole trip for me, and taking care of Bob. So I had to babysit, 50-year-old dude at the time. He did apologize for that later. He just knew he was in a bad mood, and I told him later that I didn't appreciate the additional weight that he brought onto this when I had to focus on these other things in my first trip that I coordinated. And he apologized, but I think it just shows that, we all get frustrated, and sometimes those frustrations weigh down on others. And this is kind of what I'm trying to teach my kids, is that, hey, you're going to get frustrated sometimes, you're going to get upset, but when you start making it other people's problems, that's not okay, right? Because now the weight on your shoulders is now affecting other people. And unless you know that they can potentially help you, or you're looking to seek advice and help and a shoulder to cry on or lean on, then you're just kind of putting it on them and making it worse, right? So this was something that I learned. What did Rob say? Scottsdale, Tucson, please. Sorry, I don't know my geography. Dole says, hey, all, I missed the first 45 minutes, but I had to be here for Pat Flynn's 250th. Congrats, Pat, and hello, all. and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much, Dole Whip Dad. I appreciate you. Lesson, don't be a baby and buy Artlist. Oh, that's too bad. Whining does call so much focus. Poor Bob. Good point. Truth, though, for real, Pat. Go full screen? Oh, my gosh. My bad. Were you at least able to see me? Okay, you were. Okay. I should get like a free month at least, maybe, for doing that. My bad. Thank you. That's hilarious. Okay. Other lesson. Hey, let me tell you about this time that I was streaming in front of like 100 people. And the screen was on a pricing page for a completely different company that didn't even pay me to do that. There we go. Closing the loop. All right. So what else do you want to learn about Pat Flynn style? I love telling these stories, and I think that the more you tell stories, the better you get at it, the more that you can just, even without practicing, kind of hone in on the parts that should be sped up and slowed down and dynamic and paused on, and, the different kinds of things you can do to enhance the story, how you can get into the details of certain things. I think story is so wonderful. I think we need to tell more of it, and we need to get better at it. And the only way to get better at it is to, in fact, tell more story, right? 250, baby. Yes, we are 250 days in. By the way, Pat Flynn, you were wearing my all-time favorite Pat Flynn shirt. Yes. Dude, Disneyland, unreal. Unreal. This just reminds me of another complaining story for some reason. Why all these negative stories? We're supposed to talk about these happy stories. Maybe it's happy because we are not these people who complain, or we can learn to look at the bright side of things. But I remember at Disneyland, they have these races, or they had these races. They stopped these races, unfortunately, but they were so fun. They were themed races where you could run a half marathon. It actually was 5K, 10K, or half marathon. And April and I, she got me into running. We would run these half marathons, and you'd get a really nice medal. It was Disney themed. Of course, everything Disney is always up leveled, and it's really fascinating and interesting to see how they make the experience better. And even for running, it wasn't about the running for us. It wasn't about trying to get the best time. It was about just being around Disney and running a half marathon. And the cool thing was it happened at like 4 a.m. because they would allow you to run part of the marathon, about a third or maybe a quarter of the marathon, through the park in the dark, in the middle of the night or in the middle of the morning. And it was really cool because it had characters out there depending on the theme of the actual race. There was a Star Wars race, there was the Avengers race, there was like a Tinkerbell race, there was a few others. I didn't run the Tinkerbell one, which always happened around Mother's Day, but I did run the Star Wars race a couple times and the Avengers one, and there was a few other themed ones. But April and I both ran about 6 to 8 different races across a couple years. The kids even ran a couple. There were, for the Ironman one, there were like kid races that were separate, where the kids could run 100 meters, 200 meters, or 500 meters, and that was really neat. There was even a baby sort of toddler race where they would go 100 feet. It was so cute. Anyway, April and I woke up early in the morning. We had, I think, my in-laws with me to watch the kids. So April and I got up early in the morning. We would get up at like 3:30 or 3:45 in the morning to get ready, and then the race would begin at 4:30 a.m. in the dark. 20,000 people running, right? So this just like a giant line, and you had to know what letter you were to go into that right spot. And it would often take, sometimes the race would start, and yet you wouldn't even cross the start line until 30 minutes later. Like it was a herd of people. And then one time we were sitting there early in the morning, and we were stretching, we were getting ready because it's really cold, trying to stay hydrated, but also like not get too cold because it was just, super early in the morning. And for whatever reason, we just ended up next to this guy who was in his running gear, right? Headband. I remember he had glasses, and he was quite tall. He was stretching, but the whole time he was complaining about how cold it was, how crowded it was, how he didn't want to run the race. And we just were like, dude, you're sucking the negative, you're sucking the positivity out of this whole situation. Like, first of all, you can go. Like, this isn't, why did you sign up for this? Number one. Number two, like, you can leave. Like, if you're, like, they were complaining so much, and everybody around us was just like, oh my my gosh, what is this guy? Like, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to like be upset or get into anything before the race because I'm mentally trying to get prepared for this thing. Yet this person is next to us literally complaining the whole darn time for 45 minutes straight. Like, oh, why am I here? I can't believe I have to run this race. It's so cold. There's so many people here. Like, I don't even know how I'm going to run around all these people. Like, it's just, like that kind of stuff. And we're just like, dude, what the heck are you complaining about? Like, this is a fun race through Disneyland. You're going to get to go, just people sometimes. I don't like complainers. Complaining to me is such a waste of time. Getting frustrated is fine. But when you complain and it affects the people around you, that's not okay. And again, that's a lesson that we're trying to teach the kids. What are we going to try to do to solve this problem? Or what of the situation can we actually look at to see where there might be some possibility of some sort of positivity at all, right? You're right, Dolit Dad. Negativity is contagious, but so is positivity, right? So, I wasn't sure if I should just like, part of me was like, oh, should I just kind of like chill here, lollygag a little bit and just kind of like not do anything about it? But the other part of me was like, I'm going to fight this negativity with positivity. Like I was thinking about, and I always say these things. Do you ever do this where you're in a scenario and you're just like going through the scenario and you had on your head about what you could do and like how you could behave and like certain things that you could say, and then you play out that scenario in your head, and then you like come back to reality, and you're just like, oh no, I'm just gonna not say anything and cause a scene. But I wanted to like fight his negativity, and every time he said say something negative, I wanted to say something positive. Like, oh, I'm just so happy to be alive. Like, man, we get to run a race through Disney today. That's so cool. Just to kind of like contrast the two. And I know I didn't really use the secret word in a really good way, but I'm running out of ways to say it. We're coming into the end of the month here, so we're going to have a new word. I'm thinking about doing, chat, let me know if you think I should do this. Maybe every week is a different word. Maybe we select the word together on, here's what we could do. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen moving forward, all right? Starting this Saturday. Starting Friday. Every Friday, we're going to use the Wheel of Names. We're going to crowdsource from the members ahead of time a list of options for words of the week. We're going to put them into the Wheel of Names, and we're going to have the Wheel of Names randomly select one of those crowdsourced words that I then have to include into the income stream every single week. So it's going to change every week. We're going to change it up together, and you will actually see what that word is. So I know sometimes some of you don't go into the community tab, and you don't see the messages for the members only and whatnot. But I think a weekly new secret word would be more fun, and I think that crowdsourcing it every week could be really interesting, and we sort of select it in real time together. I think that'd be really fun. It was a little forced, but I got it in there. Yeah. Okay. Crowdsource secret word. That's funny, right? Like when I would run through the park and I'd see Mickey Mouse, I'd be like, ee! Or when I'm on my 11th mile and we turn that corner and you see the finish line 2 miles down the road, you're like, ee! Yeah, see? Like getting new words in there could be really fun, I think. Word of the week. Nice. Cool. I like it. I like it. Ee! I like it. Cool. I hope that I've been able to make you smile today. I hope I've been able to help you consider more storytelling in your near future because it's so much fun. And it's just interesting to hear other... It's like, I remember this game. I can't remember the name of it, but it was this game. It was like a deck of cards. It was like a deck of cards, but it wasn't playing cards. It was... Stephanie says, I heard Behoove in a movie the other day. And it made me smile. Nice. I don't even remember where I was going. I apologize. I'm just having a lot of fun hanging out and chilling with y'all. This has been an incredible 250 days. This is a fun milestone, I guess. A little milestone here. And every week we're just going to continue tomorrow. We're going to just keep it random, keep it casual, keep it as if we're just kind of in a room together having fun, because that's really what this is. It's just a virtual room. And we're going to get back into the more in-depth sort of programming next week, starting on Monday. We're still going to have a stream on Thursday on Thanksgiving Day. We're still going to have a stream on Saturday to review websites and things like that, and YouTube channels. Sunday we'll do a Q&A again, and then Monday we'll hit it hard with something probably in the realm of goal setting, right? Because we're going to be on the other side of Thanksgiving, and we'll have been grateful for all the cool things that have happened this year, but then we can start thinking about the next year, right? We can go from there. Love your shirt, bro. Thanks today's review. I appreciate it. Yeah, I miss Disneyland. I hope that the people who have been laid off from Disney are okay. 28,000 people getting laid off is insane. Oh, deck of cards. Thank you. There was a deck of cards where you come out and it would just be literally a question that you and your group that you were with could just discuss. And it was cool, like about random things, like tell us about a time when blank, right? And that's actually a strategy. If you are, in fact, a podcaster or doing interviews of any kind, like that's a perfect way to just bring entertainment and imagination into whatever it is that you're doing, right? Hey, tell me about a time when you watched a live stream and the guy said, "Ee." Cool. So yeah, let's talk about goal setting 2021 and all things setting ourselves up for success for next year. So, chat, thank you so much for today. I appreciate you. Welcome to all the new members here. And let's hang out tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and I look forward to seeing and serving you tomorrow. Have an amazing day. Tell some more stories, and I look forward to seeing you then. Peace out, y'all, and as always, Team Flynn for the win.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
All right, 250 down, 115. Wow, that's it? Till we get to 365? Insane. I'm glad we're here together. You keep me going, and I hope I keep you going too. Peace out, y'all. Thanks so much.
Bruh.